Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One-Word Conversations. One-Word Conversations is a self-discovery, relationship-building conversation designed to invite you to look at your language, right? Many times we come up with all of the perfect words that we can think of, and then we still find ourselves in a place of disconnection, mainly because words don't just come with definitions, they come with stories and emotions and expectations. And so if we're willing to have a one-word conversation, we'll learn a little bit about ourselves, the person that we're speaking to, and maybe, just maybe, we can build on to that relationship. One Word Conversations is brought to you by IamWilliamBrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life. One way that I spotlight what's available at IamWilliamBrown.com is our U cards. Our U cards are part of the Beyond the Shell series. It is children's and not just for children's book that is the journey to stay you and finding you beyond what protects you. So I've created the U cards to be an intention setters and also journal prompts and a game. So I'm using it today as to set the intention for the conversation. And these are the cards that I picked today. I am brave. Deep breath. You are brave. So anytime I match them within there, bravery is going to come up within this conversation. And our card that I shuffled, but there is no one newer than you, is shown up again. So this is the moment where I invite you to like, share, comment, ask questions, subscribe, do all those things to let me know that you are also a part of this conversation. So we're going to have a fun conversation today, and I use the word fun loosely, I guess. Our word for today is failure. And so as I do, I invite my guests in so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Excellent. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nesreen Ahmed. I am a human. I'm a woman. I'm a new mother, and I am a professional certified life and grief coach.
Wow. Welcome to this conversation. So, how does the word failure land for you?
Oh, well, first I have to say that I love language, so I'm really excited to be here. And I was so intrigued by the idea of one-word conversations. And, you know, as a coach and an optimist, I like to think that there is no such thing as failure, right? Like failure, it's all just about learning and it's about growing from the experiences. But if I'm honest and brave, I think that I still struggle. I still struggle to internalize that fully and to recognize that there is no such thing as failure. Because I definitely have, probably even as recently as last week, you know, in some ways felt like I failed or something failed or it didn't go right. And yeah, I think it's about just internalizing that more and more.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way with it. I mean, for me, in my mind, I understand that failure is a part of success. But how I show up is I shouldn't have failure at all. Right? You know, I want to eliminate failure from my life. You know, it's like I'll never succeed because there's so much failure around here. And it's like the one thing that I just got for myself today when I was thinking about this conversation is to embrace failure as a gift. A gift saying that it is letting me know that something is not working. And so if I embrace that information, then I can make different choices. I may not ever get it to work, but but I don't have to stay in that failure state.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, like a little warning sign that there's a red flag or something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
I often so I'm around a lot of kids right now. My daughter is still quite young, but I'm around some kids in school, and I'm thinking back to my own experiences in school and how we're taught that like can't get an F, right? We can't get failure. We can't.
Mhm.
It's a bad thing. And what came up as you were talking was that idea, like how we're conditioned to think of failure as like a negative thing,
Right.
but as you were saying, it really isn't a bad thing. Like if there is failure,
Right.
it's actually just a sign that things need to change or things need to shift or something needs to be worked on, right?
Right.
Addressed in some way. But it's really frustrating in a lot of
Right.
ways and kind of sad that we're so conditioned in our society to think of failure as the absolute worst thing that we should never have and never deal
Right.
with and not allow, for any reason.
Right. And barely acknowledge it. Right. I mean, it's like, you mentioned that you love language, and for me, my curiosity around language is because you know I only speak English barely, and I'm always I have many failures with speaking. So my desire to do one word at a time is just to kind of, okay, I got this word, now I can go to another one, right? But there's a part of that, but there is a place with me that feels that I um my thought just went away, that um yeah, it just flew away. Maybe hey, the first failure of the day. It's like the mind. I just lost it, and I was like, come on back, come on back. And I'm sure that it's like right in front of me, like inviting me to um to be with it. But I think for me, how failure um feels like a state of of being, that's just who I am, right?
Mm.
It's like the bad luck. It's like I start this once I get into this failure mode, it just I'm just staying there. So that is really the fear for me, because there was a large part of my life, we talked about our connection with theater, was it was almost simple, right? There was a lot of the reason why I was a decent actor is because I didn't like my life, right? I didn't like who I was, so it was
Mm.
easy to pick up another role, right?
Mm.
So the studying of my role wasn't something that I did, right? I would talk to how to memorize lines. It's like, okay, I got this character. Now, what are we saying? What's the conversation and all that other kind of stuff? And I was able to do it and like embrace that. And also I had method acting, to kind of mess with me emotionally behind the scenes, right? So for all of the actors that know method acting, it's like it has great performances and messed up people behind behind it. But feeling that I was failing at life, right? That everything was so simple. So I didn't even have to try. It was just, it was just happening. But every time I would try, I would fail. So it's just like, crap, So don't try. Just kind of just do and get what you get, right? Was a
Mm.
way that I've shown up many times.
I I can certainly relate to that, and I'm guessing most people can in some
Mm,
way. I know I have a big avoider saboteur
mm,
where it was a lot of just fear of failure. Like I didn't want to show up, I didn't want to be seen, and I didn't want to be seen trying because what if it didn't work? What if
right.
I failed, right? Um, and so I think a lot of people have similar feelings or similar experiences in life where it's just like better to not even try than to try and fail, right? To try
Right.
and not succeed. And again, I think that goes back to how we've been taught, to believe or how to think about failure, that it is about you as a human, as a person. It's reflective of your worth or lack of worth, reflective of your not good enoughness or whatever enoughness.
Right.
And that's where the lie is. That's where the heartbreak is in a lot of ways for me, because
Right.
I see these young kids running around thinking they're not good enough and that they shouldn't try or they shouldn't fail because it's representative of who they are. And it's
Right.
you know what I mean? It's awful to think that we all live our lives like that. That we spend our time avoiding doing what we could be doing and what we love to do because we're afraid.
Right. It's something I said something in coaching. I was coaching the other day. It's like, I don't know about you as a coach or as a human being. I say a lot of things that I don't yet believe. Right. You know, and it's like it just comes to me and it's just like, okay. So it's
We're
like,
going with that.
we're gonna go with it.
Love it. Love it.
And I said, you can't fail at being yourself.
Mhm.
And it's like, I believe it and I don't believe it, right? Because there are many days it's like, I'm failing at being myself. you know? And so it's like, what is it? And it's like, the more that I show up as myself, I just can't fail because I'm
Mhm.
just, that's just who I am. I'm like Dr. Seuss. There's no one newer than you. So what is the comparison? What is success? What
Mhm.
all of the things that I'm measuring and not measuring, that have a part of the equation of, if I was myself today, has nothing to do with anybody else. So it was, like I said, it sounded good, and it was like, do I really believe that? Am I going to take that on?
Mm, mm. I bet your client is listening right now, being like, "Wait, what? What? Did you just say that for real?" Um, but I think that's a really beautiful point, right? Because first of all, success is arbitrary, right? It's so individualized, and there's these layers of success or whatever that society tells us we should have or we should achieve at some point, and so many people don't want those things. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you have. I certainly have worked with a lot of people who wake up one day and they're like, "I'm living the wrong life. Like, I'm chasing the wrong things." You know what I mean? For me, it's
Right,
in my niche, a lot of like
right,
a loss happens, something really devastating happens, and it has them take stock and be like, "Whoa, wait a
right,
minute." And I think
mm,
hopefully we don't all have to have something like that happen to be able to realize that
right,
our achievements are hopefully something that we have decided for ourselves. This is what I want. This
right,
is the kind of life and lifestyle I want. Not, oh, well, I need to have this because society says that. I need to have this kind of car. I better have this kind of job. I need to be making this kind of money by the time I'm this age. And I need to have this many
right,
kids. But, it's like all these rules that most of us don't fit into,
right,
and then we somehow assume that again it's a reflection of us and our failures that we haven't achieved these things yet.
right. It's what's come up from your sharing for me is, most of my fear of failure. It really, in some cases, it really isn't fear of failure. It's a fear of loss,
Mm,
because that's what failure is for me. I'm going to lose something.
mm,
There's a decision that I've made that is going to cause something to leave my life. Right. Right. If it's sanity, if it's money, if it's, a relationship, there is something that I'm going to lose. And as you know from your clients, m- I don't believe that many of us really have been trained to deal with loss and to grief and to really, I want to say, embrace that, but just have an understanding that, um, it's a part of it. it's an important part. And I read a book. I think it's almost a year ago. I think it was beginning of last year. It was letting go. I was trying to find the author, and I just can't. But it was like letting go, and it's it is I can say that I want all of this stuff, or all of I want to manifest all these things in my life, but at the same time, I am holding on to some things that are not working anymore, some things that have expired, and want me to let them go. But I feel like, well, I need that, and I'm keeping other things from coming into my life because that fear of loss and letting things go. Because I've mentioned on the show before that I have an unhealthy relationship with consistency, you know, and it's like I say I'm going to do something and I'm doing it and I'm failing at it. I know I'm failing at it. Everybody knows I'm failing at it, but damn it, I'm going to keep on doing it, and then it's like, stop it, right? And so that's, I'm really, now that I'm aware of that, I can laugh at it, but one day I'll just kind of have a healthier relationship with consistency, and then go from there.
Can I tell you, I am the queen of resistance. I will resist everything. So I can either say no 100 times, or I can hold on to things that should be like letting should be gone, right? That I should be letting go of. And it is so easy for me, like, no, like I need this. This is happening, or this is my routine. This is part of my life. Like, how could this change? I can't change it, So it's like all this energy in trying to maintain something that, as you said, isn't working, right? Or should go away, should fade off,
Right.
Whether it's relationships, whether it's personal habits, whether it's experiences,
Right.
Trying to recreate something that I did before. It doesn't, I've learned, and although I still like to resist,
Right.
I really learned that, like, no, there's a time and place to say goodbye. There's a time and place to let it go, because I think that's when failure really starts, was when you keep trying something, it's not working, right? You keep pushing for something that's not working. And I don't know if that's necessarily failure, but it's at least a sign of, like, okay, like you said, I'm holding on to something, and I'm not making room for other things in my life to appear, to come in some way or another. So I really relate to what you're saying, and I have definitely had plenty of experiences where I've held on to things way longer than I should have, particularly relationships, and it just ends up, time and again showing me that there's no need to try to maintain something that really isn't working well.
Right. What came up for me, I guess I would consider this a brave moment. But what came up to me is the reason why I won't label it a failure or let it go is because my worthiness is connected to it. I'm connected to that. And until I really separate myself from my ideas and my activities and all that kind of stuff, because that has nothing to do with my worthiness, and it does, right? So, like I said, again, I say stuff and it's like, I don't yet believe that, but that's what I'm saying. But it feels like I won't, I can't call this a failure, because now I'm calling myself a failure. All that time that I put into this business, or all that time that I put in this activity, now it is failing, or this is a failure. And so that has something to do with me and nothing to do with me. Right. And so, I want to speak well of myself, but that, but it has nothing to do with me. But I realize that that's the main reason why, I make the decision to not really embrace failure as a gift, because I don't want to want to lose a part of myself, right? I
Mm.
don't want I don't want to say, hey, this was my dream that I put all my money in and all this in and it didn't work. And it's like, now that sucks, and now I don't have that dream anymore. And now, it's like, geez, I wasn't responsible with my own damn dream. Right.
Mm.
It's that type of thing that I'm really getting present to, that it's like, how can I have that uncoupling, of my of my worth from the stuff that I'm doing.
100%. Oh my gosh, 100%. I mean, that brings up the loss, right? The idea of losing this business or losing this dream, and then what do you have? But definitely talking about you as a human versus, the things that you're doing, the things you're creating, the goals that you have, right?
Right.
Um, I'm thinking of not a quote necessarily, but somebody I heard along the way in my journeys in coaching, that failure is the result of an act, not a being, right? So
Mm,
like, if you fail at something, it's if it's your actions that failed, or it's your idea that failed. But
right.
you as a human can't fail. You as a
Right.
human, your
Hmm.
worth is, intrinsic to who you are. It has nothing to do with your actions, your ideas, your thoughts, your
Right.
behaviors, right? So you as a human, we as humans can't
Right.
fail, right? But our actions might not
Right.
work out, right? Our dreams might not work out.
It's something that, I mean, from what we said earlier about how society sees failure,
Mhm.
do you think we were conditioned to kind of put our worthiness connected to our doing, just to keep us doing stuff, right? You know, it's like, hey, I need these worker bees. So it's like, yeah, if you don't do this, you suck, right? So I mean, so it's like, okay, I got to keep doing. Is that a conditioning that we have to like unlearn? It's
I mean, I don't know how you were raised, but I know my parents were definitely like, "Well, do this, and you could have that, right?
hmm,
Make this or make that goal, get that grade, and then you'll be good, right?" So I do think in a lot of parenting, especially in different cultures, but certainly here in the States as well, there is a lot of that idea of like, if you do this, then you'll be good, you'll be
right,
worthy, you can have the ice cream, or you can get the
right,
bike or whatever it is. So like there's some definite linkage between what we do and what we accomplish and
right,
what we can have, and the love that and the accolades that we receive from our family. So I think in some ways it's very much, a child wanting the attention and the approval. And so
right,
we think we have to do in order to get that, right? I mean, I'm
right.
watching my husband's my nephew-in-law, who's 10 years old, and he's so interested and invested in my comfort. And
Mm,
can I get you anything? Can I do this for you? Do you want anything to drink? Let me help you. Oh, I can chop these vegetables for dinner. And it's like, I don't need you to do any of that. Just hang out, kick out, be a kid. Enjoy.
right,
But he's so invested in trying to make sure that I'm happy with him.
right.
And so,
Wow.
and I don't know if that's from his specific parenting and family life. I don't know if that's just who he is and that's sort of his personality of people pleasing. But I notice it a lot, and it's like, wow, like I really want, as a new mom, I really want my daughter to know I love her, even when she's being a little snot, and
Right,
like, what
right,
I mean, even when she's refusing and resisting. I want
right,
her to know that doesn't change how much I love her and how worthy she is. You know what I mean,
right,
and how amazing she is. And yeah, like it's really interesting to see younger kids and how they're sort of developing these patterns and habits, because I think a lot of it because they're taught that
right,
their actions are very connected to who they are and to how much love that they're going to get.
right. Within my coaching, I have reimagined Maslow hierarchy of needs. So it starts off with the our basic needs: food, water, shelter, safety. and the relationships, esteem, up to self-actualization. And so in my reimagining of that, I have flipped it on its head, that we start with an awareness, or what I call an actionable awareness of ourselves. And so, and it's just, I mean, it could be something very simple, because, we don't know our full self, right? But something, on this journey, we kind of figure out what that is. But if we start there, then our choices about the food that we eat, or the places that we live, is connected to us. There's a connection to ourselves. Then our relationships are healthier because they are connected to us and our understanding of who we are, and our esteem is connected to us. That is the foundation of it. And then at the top, we are protecting, or the safety things that are important to us, instead of what I believe that we have now, and how it shows up is that we'll eat anything because we got to eat. If it's healthy or not. We'll get in all kind of relationships if it's healthy or not. Has nothing to do with who I think I am or know I am, and all that other kind of stuff. And our esteem is with all other places, our doing, what people say on Facebook, or all that other kind of stuff. And it's not connected to our us. And then we think that we have failed. Then there's the failure. Oh my gosh, I have such a terrible life because, I am waiting to get to a place where I can be self-actualized, right? To where I can be myself. But I have to get through all of that stuff, let's just say, to kind of get there. And I think the more that we, and it's not selfish, and because the self-discovery journey, for myself, it is sometimes difficult, painful, enjoyable, fulfilling, all that kind of stuff, and confusing, but it's worth it. It is so much better than this mindless, I have no idea why I'm doing what I'm doing, what I'm connected to. And in some cases, one reason why there's I guess, an angst around failure for me, is that it's like, I really don't know what it is, because I haven't fully, in some cases, defined success. So if I don't have a clear understanding of what success is, I sure as hell don't know what I'm failing. Right? So it's just like, okay, I know what I'm doing right now doesn't feel good, or it's not doing the desired result. So I guess, it's all failure, right? It's all, all that other kind of stuff. So it's, I don't know. It can get real crazy real quick when we don't have an awareness of ourselves. And I think that exercise of really seeing how you're showing up, and then deciding if I'm going to continue that way, or if I'm going to make some adjustments to that.
I love that. I love that. And I'm totally, full disclosure, I'm totally stealing your flipping of Maslow's hierarchy. I think it's
Absolutely
brilliant.
Get it out in the world.
Little chunk for me, or a little tidbit for me. And sure, I mean, if we don't know where we're going, then we might feel like, nothing's failing, or nothing,
Right.
there's no failure.
Right.
But we might feel the opposite, like everything's failing.
Everything, right.
I have a certain someone in my life right now who is questioning a lot of things, and kind of curious about which direction to go in. And I know there's just a sense of failure in that alone, of the questioning, and I should know, and I should be on the path, and I should be succeeding on it, and it's keeping him from really moving in any direction, right? It's like that idea of, well, I should, like, I think, I was thinking about this before we jumped on, and I think a lot of failure is born from expectation. right?
Mm,
Like the idea that we should be a certain way, or,
right.
the expectation that things are going to go, life is going to go a certain way, this
Right.
relationship is going to go a certain way. And if
Right.
it doesn't meet our expectation, failed, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Um, and I think that's really damaging in a lot of ways. It's
Hmm.
a real shame because we have no idea how life is going to go. One thing I'm very certain of is that everything could change tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Right. Hmm.
And so it's hard to have those expectations and to assume that it's going to go a certain way,
Right.
and then have it not. But I
Right.
think it's even more important to recognize that we don't know how things are going to go, and to learn to be with the unknown, and learn that if we're not headed in the right direction, or if we're not on the path that we think we should be on, that it
Right.
doesn't mean that we're failing. It just means, again, like you said, adjustments need to be made.
Right. It's really, um, I've said this in my coaching also about, our age. We put a lot of our development in our age. It has nothing to do with, our experience, our life. It's our age. Once we get 18, we should be, responsible, right? What are you going to do for the rest of your life at 18? What? Right? It's like, and so from that decision, I'll say for myself, from that decision, I like gauge where my life is now at 53 on that damn decision that I made, right? That if I'm succeeding or failing at life, right? Um, and in some cases, here's a dirty little secret. I don't tell too many people this, but since it's just you and me, I I'll say the main reason why I was a theater major in college is because I was in a play my senior year in high school. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I felt like I was doing a really good job in theater. So it's like, oh, we'll just keep this theater thing going. It wasn't, I wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to be anything else. Or I wanted to, there was no other, it was like, that's what I was currently doing. And so, um, I got some good reviews, got some dates. We're this theater thing is working out, right? And it's like, that was my life. And it took me until my sophomore year, because I was a theater communications major. I flipped to communication theater because I did all my theater classes, and I said, you know what, this theater thing, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. But I want to have these skills, and so I thought I was going to do broadcast news and all that other kind of stuff. So I was like, I had those transferable skills. But yeah, I was making this decision about my life, from the age of 18, and I think um, sometimes I look at my life at, I'm 53, I should know, fill in the blank, I should be doing this, and if I don't know who's saying that, right? There's no book somewhere that says, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. But in my mind, it's like, I must be failing if I'm still dealing with, financial issues, right? If I'm still, all of these things. And it just really, it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. But how can we recalibrate what success and failure really is in our life?
Before I answer that question, I want to share that the reason that I ended up working in theater for as long as I did is very similar to yours. Like I started doing theater. I did summer stock the year I graduated high school, so right before I went into college. And I was like, oh my god, this is fun! I get to help
Right.
quick changes, and oh my god, I'm seeing naked people. You know, what I mean? Like I was like, sure, let's keep doing this.
Yeah,
So I got
that's
to
the life.
college, kept doing theater, and eventually got into wardrobe specific, and after I graduated, I was kind of like, what do I do? And then I got a job doing a tour, you know what I mean? And so I just kept going. And then suddenly I was working off Broadway, and I was living in New York. And then suddenly I was working on Broadway. And it just sort of kept building and building. And I was just like, I'm going to follow this path and see where it goes,
Right.
And so I think a lot of people, end up doing things because that's the path they're on, right? Again, kind of going back to that idea of I should have certain things and reach these certain milestones by a certain point. It's just sort of what we're taught and what life happens, and like, okay, this is how it's going to work out, right? So I related a lot to your story, and it took me a while to really be able to say, oh, I don't want this to be the rest of my life. As wonderful as it is, this is not the life and lifestyle that I'm looking for long term, forever. But I think, to answer your question about success and failure, I think first and foremost, because I think this has been the crux of our conversation, is really owning your worth and separating that from everything else, right? From your actions, from your thoughts, from your beliefs, from your habits. It has nothing to do with anything. I had a coach a couple of years ago that challenged me to think of my self-worth as my left arm. It just is, right? It's here, can't go away. This is my arm, can't go anywhere, right? No matter what happens, it's a part of me, right? And so if we can think of our worth as part of us and not something that we have to work for or earn or prove, and it's just a part of us, then I think we have more opportunity to play with what success looks like. What does our version of success look like? Is it that we're going to be financially free by the time we're 55? Is it that we're going to be in this amazing relationship by the time we're 35? Is it and we start to actually look at it from what we care about instead of what society cares about, or what we think people are judging us on, or what our parents want for us, or what our siblings or our spouses or the people in our lives want for us. I think it's a more engaged conversation, but also a more honest conversation, when we're not talking about how to prove ourselves, but really talking about what we care about, what we want, the kind of impact that we want to have in the world, the kind of person that we want to be, how we want to model that for our kids. I think that becomes a much deeper and richer conversation.
Yeah. I think there's so many amazing people in our lives that mean well, but sometimes just mess us up, right? Because there was a conversation that I was having last year that I'm still unpacking, is that really understanding the difference between a reflection and a projection. And it's like there are many times when we interact with someone that, depending on how we're showing up, they are a reflection of us. But there are sometimes they are just projecting their shit on us, right? And sometimes, if we don't know the difference, someone could say something that this is how you're being. It's like, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with us. And I have spent years kind of getting a projection off of me, because it was a family member that said it, or or what, somebody that I cared about, and it was like, wow, that wasn't me at all. That had nothing to do with me. And it's just, that's the fun little treat on the road of self-discovery. It's like, okay, what's the difference here? Because there are sometimes I honestly say, I would like to think that the people around us are, have some information, can give us some information that I don't have, right? That you can say, hey, I see this in you. I see potential in you. I see some. So I want to be that. Or I see that you're acting like a butthole right now. It's like, thank you very much. I'll stop doing that. And, and I can do that. But there are some times, I believe, when I give too much credit to other people, then I have no access of myself. Then now I'm like questioning, okay, all right, well, I thought I was a nice person right there, but do you think that, it's like, there was something, you think that's horrible. What I was thinking was a lot worse than that, right?
Thank goodness I edited.
Right. I mean, it's that. And so it's just really, talk about failure there, right? It's like, you like I say, you get all these lovely words and you get all this, you craft this conversation, and it just doesn't go over, right? And it just, and then there's a question about, how serious you are. And if you think this relationship is important, it's like, wow, okay, where do we go? Right.
Mhm.
So really recognizing the difference in how we see failure and how other people see failure might dictate how we show up within, you know, our relationships. Right?
100%. 100%. I think we, I think it's a, like there has to be some kind of balance, right? Because, and
Mm.
so I literally had two conversations that I can think of right now. One literally today and one a couple weeks ago with a client. And basically the story was the same, which was I talked to somebody about something and they said that's a bad idea. And then I started questioning, is that a good idea? And should
Right.
I pursue it? And blah, blah, blah. And, it's so common and so normal
Mhm.
and infuriating at the same time, because it's like,
Right.
that's their perspective and that's their projection and that's their view of what a person should do. Maybe it's you specifically, maybe it's just what they're not comfortable doing, right? That's
Right.
outside of their comfort zone.
Right.
And so then they judge you for it, then they have all these opinions about it, and they're very vocal in their opinions
Right.
about it, sometimes uninvited.
Right.
um, and I think it needs to be a balance between, again, kind of really connecting to your core, to your beliefs, to your
Right.
important, purpose in life,
Right.
right? Your gift in life, and what it is that this particular action or project or relationship means to you,
Right.
and if it's worthy of pursuing, regardless of what these people think and how
Right.
they're going to be able to limit or not limit, you.
Right.
Um, but certainly, especially, I think it gets really tricky in relationships when there's a lot of expectations and what it means to fail and what it means
Right.
to be in a successful relationship. And I think there's a lot of negotiating
Right.
between the two people to be able to, whether it's a love relationship or a friendship, to be able to really define what a successful relationship looks like for those two
Right.
people.
Right.
Um, it's a it's a um, I kind of feel like it's like a daily, um, I don't know, I'm thinking like, being in a kayak with somebody and you're just constantly trying to find your balance, from day
Mm.
to day,
Right.
from situation to situation, because it changes for people, right? And
Right.
our own fears come up, our own judgments come up. Certainly, a situation might trigger something in me that
Right.
you have no, no relationship to, or no, it has no impact on you, so I
Right.
do feel like it's kind of just a constant sort of balancing and renegotiating.
Right. Mm. Yeah, I think your example of the kayak. What I thought that my relationship is whitewater rafting. It's
Mhm.
like, I don't know if you've ever gone whitewater rafting, but I had at least 18 near death moments, right? That I thought that I was, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm going to die. All right. Or, okay, I didn't die. All right. Okay, all right. And just gone. And so what was coming up for me is that there's two things. Um, is that my understanding of balance. Okay. So this is how I'm connecting this. And within a relationship or within an activity, that it's like there's successful activities and there's failures within the whole relationship. And so because of my understanding of balance, if I'm currently aware that I have more failures than successes in this activities, well, this is a failure. And I think, and sometimes that's not the truth. It's not as easy, because some of those successes were like big successes compared to the little
Mhm.
failures that we had. And I can remember, look, I've been married for 30 years, so um, I don't want my wife to hear this and think that I'm like pining over a relationship that I didn't have or all that other kind of stuff. So I'll just put that disclaimer out there. But I believe that I ended relationships because I was like looking for this balance instead of looking at the quality of our relationship,
Mm.
it was like, you know, she didn't say this, she didn't do this, all this kind of stuff. But and just kind of it's like, okay, this is a failure. I'm out, right? I mean, it's like, what? It's like we're not going to talk about this. No, I did the math, right? It's like, and it's, it's like that's how we kind of, or I'll say myself, that's how I like live my life around success and failure, and
Mm.
it's really not that simple, I guess.
100%.
It's like, yeah, stop doing that. Right?
Yes, just stop that math. Well, I mean, and clearly you figured it out, right? After 30
Right.
years of marriage, you understand. But no, I mean, I don't think it's as simple as math and numbers on a pros and cons and stuff like that, right? And really truly, like, if you again kind of go back to like what is that ultimate version of success for you, right?
Right.
I bet a lot of people out there are thinking 30 years of marriage is pretty successful, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it really depends on what you see as being a successful relationship.
Right.
It's funny, like I went kayaking with my husband on our baby moon last year, 2019, and it was our first time ever being in a kayak together, and it was kind of his first time ever really kayaking. I've done it quite a bit more, and so I'm like trying to like steer him and trying to tell him where to go, and he keeps doing the opposite of, and so we're literally like going in circles, like we're just not moving at all. And at one point I'm just like, I give up, like it's on you, like take us where we need to go, because you're not gonna, like, there's no. And I just remember thinking, we're in trouble. Like, is this the way we're communicating? Is this what's happening right now? And we laugh about it now, but that, could have been a failure, right? That could have been something that I was like, this is a fail. We did the wrong thing. We shouldn't be together. You know what I mean? And of course it's not, right? Because that's one moment in our relationship of a huge amount of successes and a huge amount of challenges, and so, yeah. So I think it's really like, if you can go back to and start from that place of, I am worthy. And then what do I really want? What does success look like for me? What was really important to me? And then from there, start looking at those milestones, start looking at the achievements that you've already had in this area. And then what are the learnings? As you said earlier, what is that red flag of like, oh, this needs to change. Oh, let me shift this a little bit. Let's try something new. I think that helps so much when we're talking about failure.
Wow. Yeah, I think we can talk about this for hours. However,
for real,
right? It's like for me when I first started this, it's like, what could, that's going to be the shortest conversation. You want to have a 1 hour conversation? It'll be done in like 5 minutes, right? So, but it's like somehow we can kind of get it out, and this has been great. Is there any last thing that you want to leave everyone with?
I think the most important thing is, if you're not able to see your worthiness as your left arm, if you're not able to see what's really important to you and define success for yourself outside of what society or your family or whoever has told you, talk to a coach, talk to somebody, whoever it is around you, whether you know them or not, like take a chance and talk to somebody. Because I think living a life where you're just going through the motions and you're just sort of following, ultimately is a waste, and my hope is that everybody lives a self-actualized life and is able to really find their purpose and their meaning and have a meaningful life.
Wow. Well, thank you. This has been a lovely conversation.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. I need just take a breath there, right? Just kind of look there. I would love to say our goodbyes in the green room if you can, but this has been great.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Okay. Worthiness for me shows up in a number of places, and I am so grateful that it came up within this conversation, so I can let it go. My worthiness is my right arm. It's not going anywhere. No matter how many crazy things I come up with, crazy ideas that I want to do, or things that's a part of my life, my worthiness is still around. Yeah. So I hope this conversation about failure, and I think the last thing that I want to say, because I want to get this in my head, that when I feel, or when you feel failure that's coming up, the emotions around failure, talk to someone. Have that one word conversation and say, this is what's coming up. This is the activity. This is how I feel. This is what's going on. And just talk it out. I think, and that you'll acknowledge it, and then you'll see that, yeah, that situation or that doing may have failed or be failing, but it has nothing to do with you. I invite you to reach out to me at iamwilliambrown.com to have a complimentary coaching session to help you be yourself and live your life. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow on One Word Conversations.